How moral are you today? I'm not here to judge. Well, actually, I am. I quite like judging. Every Monday, we have a section called Moral Maze, where we talk about issues of life and sexuality and censorship and all that sort of thing. Fun. And a lot of the issues that maybe don't constitute an entire segment on their own, but they need to be addressed. And I've said this before, largely because the other networks won't. They'll pretend that they don't exist at all. And we alternate people who come on. And Alissa Golob from Campaign Life is here this week, and she's very well. And let's begin with my MPP, Sherry DeNovo, in Parkdale High Park. I rather like her. She used to be a United Church minister, so, you know, she doesn't believe in God or Christianity or anything. No, she's a nice enough woman, but this is censorship. She's trying to, have someone silenced because they disagree with her?
Yeah, well, I mean, the FCP, the Family Coalition Party, was exercising their democratic right and freedom of speech, to pamphlet her riding because she sponsored, as you know, Bill 33, the bathroom bill as it's pegged, which did pass. And they basically had a placard of a stick figure of a man peering over the bathroom stall and a little girl on the other end saying, repeal the bathroom bill. And they delivered 2,500 postcards, and Sherry DeNovo threatened to sue, say that it was a huge hate crime against the transgender community.
Transphobic and hateful piece of literature. I mean, there's nothing worse than transphobia.
Oh, exactly. So they said that it's not trying to target the transgender community, obviously. It's just trying to, to publicize those who may abuse this bill in perversive ways, like peering over or, entering into women's
and who are we going to say that, who's to say that they won't do that?
Yeah, exactly. And the Toronto District School Board recently made an announcement that anyone who was transgender, any student or staff who is transgender can use any bathroom that they like.
I'm just looking at the picture now on the screen, and I have to admire the agility of the trans person because, he, she, is climbing quite high, and the poor little girl was that pigtails or ponytails?
Pigtails.
I always get them wrong,
Ponytails won.
I'm sorry. Look at me getting it wrong again. So, Sherry DeNovo doesn't like this. The solution is to say, I don't like this, and rip it up if you see it. But she wants to sue people. She proposes a radical piece of legislation that changes the nature, really, of how we're allowed to live. And when someone opposes it, they should be silenced and sued.
Yeah, exactly. And she even said this is going to change, the nature of Ontario and how we view this, this type of behavior. But it makes me, as a woman, and I'm very uncomfortable to think that these men can just use these washrooms whenever they please, let alone like my little siblings. So.
And you can't challenge because you can imagine someone, people running a pub or a restaurant, the last thing you want to do is get into some legal difficulties. They're barely making a living. Yeah. If they say to a guy, a heavily bearded guy, excuse me, that's a woman's washroom. If he says, I'm a woman, if they say, no, you're not, they could be in real trouble because surgery is not even the issue now. It's what do you feel? I feel like a woman today.
It doesn't matter how you're born, it's how you feel. That's exactly what it says.
I often feel like a bacon sandwich, which is rather problematic in a way. Robin Tomlin gets apology for gay slur in yearbook 42 years ago.
Yes, this one is quite hilarious. I plan on doing the same to my high school. I mean, I went to a public high school, and people often made fun of me because I was Christian or opinionated or pro-life. So I plan on, going back for an apology maybe in like 40 years.
I mean, he's now retired and ailing. I'm sorry and all that, but he finally got an apology for yearbook slur, which included the word fag. Apparently, well, it shouldn't have. But we've moved on from that. Thank goodness. We don't use those words generally. But that was 42 years ago. What year was that? I'm trying to work it out. A long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, good for him for,
Is it though?
In a sense, like if you're really that offended and you're going to hold on to a grudge and maybe stand up for, what you believe in, then I guess. But I mean, to hold a grudge for that long, and obviously it had nothing to do with the school. It wasn't the school, and the school's the one who issued the apology. It was a bunch of dumb students who were on the yearbook committee.
Kids say dumb things about each other. 42 years ago, the N-word was routinely used. Black people were treated like animals. They were castrated if they ran away. They were owned by gay people, amongst others. I mean, gay people were slave owners. They're not asking for 42 years ago, can you apologize, please? But this guy gets it because you know why. If you mention the gay issue, and I'm offended, offended. The school, of course, apologized.
Yeah, if it said fatty or nerd and somebody brought this up, he'd be laughed at.
Of course.
But because it was fag, then it's a huge story in the media.
And I mean, word was wrong, shouldn't have been used, but I think we've probably grown up, or maybe some people haven't grown up. Allowing assisted suicide too risky, says the federal government. My golly, a good decision here.
I know. When I was reading it, I was applying everything that the federal government was saying to abortion, and it made all sense. But basically what they're saying is that they're making an appeal on the BC Supreme Court decision, saying that it was already decided in the Rodriguez case to not allow physician-assisted suicide. Obviously, you know, if you do allow it, then elderly who might be coerced or depressed might make the wrong decision. They cited the Oregon case, I believe, where 46% of people who are going to be to undergo physician-assisted suicide retracted that because of pain-relieving medicine or other reasons. So, yeah, this is a good decision for the federal government to do, to appeal this case. And I mean, this was decided even, you know, in 2010 when Francine Lalonde brought up her bill, and it got completely slaughtered.
What is it with her? Why is she obsessed with killing elderly and people?
I don't know, but I would not want to be known as that type of member of
And if you've got a bad headache or a cold, do not ask this woman to your house, because I tell you...
Yeah.
We need to clarify this, though. This is not... No one should be living in pain, and we can control pretty much all pain if we put enough investment and money into pain medication and end-of-life care and so on. And it's not saying that we will not allow people to die. You can not artificially maintain a life. That's not euthanasia. This is direct intervention to end a life, or saying you're not going to get any water at all and you'll die a horrible death. And if you say to a doctor, and the first thing a doctor says is do no harm. If you say to a doctor, you're now in the business of killing people too, you've changed the whole relationship between doctor and patient.
Well, I mean, isn't that what abortionists do, or doctors who give birth to babies and then right next door kill them?
I agree.
I mean, it's a slippery slope. It's what's already happening, and with the euthanasia and doctor-assisted suicide, it only becomes much worse.
And you know, when, as much as animal lover as I am, when animals are euthanized and people find out about it, they get very upset, and there's lots of campaigns and people crying on TV. When it happens to human beings who could be saved, then it's, oh, wow, it's whatever.
Yeah. And it's sad to read these stories. Like I was reading one when I was looking this up, where this lady, there was 20, doctors and nurses in her room because she didn't want to die alone. Well, wouldn't it have been better if she had died with her family naturally, all by her side, instead of this physician-assisted suicide where, she was with all these people she didn't know? It just breaks your heart.
What a story. If there were that many people with her, they couldn't care for her. And as always, a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Every Monday we have Moral Maze, where we discuss issues of morality and ethics and family and all that sort of thing. And I'm sort of joked about it. If Obama wins, we won't be able to discuss it. But joking aside, this man, and particularly those around him, they're very censorious and controlling of contrary opinion. And it'll be interesting to see if Obama does win, what the next 4 years will present to people in the United States. Remember that there are 40 Catholic institutions suing this man, one of which is the University of Notre Dame, arguably the most liberal Catholic college of higher education in the world, perhaps. And if they're doing it, it must be an issue. Anyway, Moral Maze, where we discuss all sorts of issues. Alissa Golob is here from Campaign Life. Site, they're different, but they're connected. And I've got to begin with this one because I want to. A Washington college said their non-discrimination policy prevents them from stopping a transgender man from exposing himself to young girls inside a woman's locker room. This is hard to believe, and this is a legislation that they want to bring in to Canada. This guy, I assume
they already have brought it in.
Well, they have, haven't they? So he still has all his equipment.
He still has fully loaded.
He's still fully loaded. Fars blanks, but he did. Anyway, he's still. There's a photo. Is that? Oh my God.
He goes by Colleen.
Look at the. Oh, you can see the screen. He goes by Pauline.
Colleen.
Yeah. Oh, good Irish name. Doesn't look like a Colleen to me. So it's a man. He has all his gear, and yet he thinks what is he having? Medication or something to...
I didn't read anything about that, just the fact that he goes to this locker room at the Washington College. He's a 45-year-old male student, and he goes into the change rooms there, just walks around naked, goes into the sauna, sprawls out. But the thing about it is that the high school shares that locker room and the swimming pool, the community swimming pool. So 6-year-old girls walk around there all the time, and then you have this 45-year-old man sprawled out
in front of everyone. So he says he's transgender, which in this case seems to be he dresses as a woman. Yeah. So he's mentally ill.
Yeah.
And even if he is, so he then wants to use this changing room, which he shouldn't be able to. He then, instead of being very private, goes even further, and he wants to walk around constantly naked and then lie down in the middle of the place in front of everyone, including girls, whatever their age, but 6, 7, 8, 9, up to young women. And when there was a complaint made by the manager, they then said, oh, no, he's transgendered. And the manager had to apologize for complaining.
What really got me was that Colleen was quoted as saying, this isn't 1959, you don't go calling the cops if you use the wrong water fountain. So,
do you know, that is such an insulting thing to say. Black people, Africans taken from their homeland, enslaved, treated like animals, castrated if they try to run away for a third time, whipped, worked to death, not allowed to drink from the same water fountain as white people. And this idiot dares to compare his neurosis to their struggle?
Just so we can walk around naked and
Good
disturb little
God,
children.
he should be horsewhipped. I mean, that is just, you know, it's so arrogant when people do this. I mean, the struggle of black people for equality, which still hasn't been completely achieved, has nothing to do with sexual lunacy or this sort of crap. It really angers me, actually. It's like calling everything the Holocaust. It's not. Leave it alone. It was their suffering. It's not ours. It was theirs.
And I can totally predict, you know, maybe in a month or 2 months on the Moral Maze, we'll be talking about the same thing happening in Ontario.
I think you're right. I honestly do believe you're right. I see that another arrest has been made of a 90-pound woman who dared to say that maybe killing babies is a bad thing.
Praying outside the abortory is criminal in Ontario. And yeah, Linda has been arrested again. It was
Linda
Tuesday.
Gibbons.
Yeah, Linda Gibbons, Tuesday, October 30th. And, you know, I think that I know Linda very well. I think she's amazing. And every time somebody kind of talks to me and asks me, why in the world does she get arrested? What's the point of that? It always comes back to, you know, a story that I was told by Father Ted Colleton, who used to chain himself up to the abortory.
May he rest in peace.
Yes, deceased. And so when a reporter asked him, I think it was on a CBC or some type of interview, he said, you know, if you were walking past a public swimming pool or a private swimming pool that said no trespassing, and you saw a man through the fence, a man drowning a little boy in the pool, would you hop over the fence and save him, or would you not? Because it says private property. And that's what he compared it to, and the reporter conceded on that point. And I think it's very similar to what Linda is doing. And she saved so many babies in jail and out of jail. And, you know, when I asked her why she does that, she really said, are we really acting like abortion is killing children? Are we actually doing what needs to be done by saying that's actually happening in our clinics?
And people need to know that there are two high-profile people. It's Mary Wagner and Linda Gibbons. Now, Mary does go inside, and people may argue with that. I mean, that's open to debate. But just to put this in context, all Linda does is well outside of the clinic, maybe 20 feet away, she prays.
Yes.
And that is enough to have her arrested. And this is all because, I mean, she couldn't be violent if she wanted to. She's tiny. This is all because a provincial government in Ontario, and it happens elsewhere in the country, so there's a bubble zone. So 50, 60 feet, if you go within that. I reported once on one of the many arrests of this woman, and there was one point when one fellow had his foot over the curb of the sidewalk, and a cop stopped traffic, and there must have been probably certainly 2 lanes of traffic. And he stopped to walk across in that arrogant cop way to say, you've got your foot over the curb. And I went over to cover the arrest. I was working for News Talk 1010 CFRB, as it was, with the CFRB. And the woman cop, I probably told you this, said to the other officer, should we arrest him as well? This is the attitude they have towards freedom. Oh, there's a journalist covering the event. Should we arrest him?
And you know, it's a temporary injunction that was put on over 20 years ago, and it hasn't been addressed yet. You know, Linda continues to get arrested and trying to push that particular injunction be addressed, but they won't address it, so she'll continue to be arrested.
Last minute or so, forced abortion for a woman in Nevada?
Yes, 32-year-old woman was born with fetal alcohol syndrome, has epilepsy. She wanders to the nearest truck stops and casinos, and I guess has sex with whatever dirty, gross men are there. And she became impregnated, and she has adopted parents. She decided she wanted to keep the baby, give the baby up for adoption, but they took her to court over it to try and force her to have an abortion, which the judge was seriously considering. And so the lawyer representing the impregnated woman rushed it to the Supreme Court in Nevada, and they're going to make their decision at noon today. But they were...
So we're recording this earlier, so it'll be known by the time this goes to air. That's quite shocking because, look, she's not fit to raise a child at this stage in her life, but she's not trying to. She's saying, I want the child to live, and there are people who are desperate to adopt children who want to raise this child, but they are suggesting, no, well, kill the child, because you're a broken person with lots of challenges who had sex with a group of guys who can't control themselves, because of that will kill your child. The state to have so much power. I mean, anyone who opposes the death penalty, for example, should say immediately, this is wrong too. This is absolutely horrible.
Well, it's no better than communist China dragging the women out their front door if they're pregnant with their second child and forcing them to have abortions in their mobile clinics. So we're really, better off. And this is in a country where there are restrictions on abortion. I can't even imagine if that happened in Canada. There's no laws protecting the unborn at all. So I could see if something like that happened, it'd be even worse here. So.
As always, a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
When I told my mother I was leaving the priesthood because I was gay, she cried for 3 years straight.
And my mother reacted, at first, sort of taken aback.
She's like, it's just a phase, it's just a phase.
It was fine. My dad, being a police officer, a very masculine man, took it tough, didn't understand it.
I thought it would be this huge moment of rejection and like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. And they said, we knew. So they knew.
I told my mum that I was going to watch yet another It Gets Better video, and she cried for 3 years straight. I have to say, it's difficult if you see the whole video to tell actually who the gay women and the gay men are at times. I'm so sick and tired of all this. I'm so tired of this idea that being gay means you live a life of living hell in Canada. Okay, if you're living in parts of Africa, I can imagine it must be very challenging. 1950s, 60s even, it could have been very difficult. There was a time when homosexuality was illegal. That was wrong. But today, you try being a kid at school who says they don't believe in same-sex marriage, and what happens to you, how the teacher will treat you and other kids will treat you. Try being someone like Rick Santorum, the politician, who very compassionately, gently says, I'm against same-sex marriage. The vicious attacks on him and his family that have gone on now for more than 5 years, the physical attacks, the filth spoken about him. We've got to just deal with this lie. This is a new video from the RCMP. Apparently it's officially sanctioned because you see the uniforms and the flag behind, so we will have to embrace this. Our guest from Campaign Life, my first challenge is to pronounce his wonderful name correctly, Matthew Wojciechowski.
Perfect.
It's not bad, is it?
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Whenever we address issues like this, people say, oh, you hate gay people. For goodness sake. I mean, the number of gay people I work with, I don't hate anyone, particularly not gay people. But this is propaganda. And we've got to talk about the It Gets Better campaign and who initiated this and what sort of a person he is. It's a man called Dan Savage.
Dan Savage. He is an anti-Christian, homosexual activist that's been working for the gay lobby in the States for many years. His campaign, It Gets Better, it's one of their strongest campaigns to actively recruit and confuse young people.
Well, I don't know if they're recruiting anyone. I mean, I don't know if I agree with you on that. But what I do think is he's just a bully. I mean, the great irony of this, the man is an absolute bully. He spoke to a huge number of student reporters in a hall. You know about this story.
Yep, for sure.
And he's speaking to them. First of all, he describes the sex that he has with his partner, which was just banal and vulgar. And then he uses foul language and abuses and screams at kids there who are Christian. And when they leave, politely get up and leave, he again insults and abuses them again. And apparently this man is opposed to bullying.
Yeah, he's opposed to bullying, and he usually blames homosexual bullying. He blames it all on religion. I don't know how he was raised. I don't know what kind of family he came from.
He was raised a Catholic, I think.
Oh, it makes sense. But not only just bullying teenagers, but he's been name-calling politicians in very vulgar ways, very profane ways.
Well, let's be more explicit. I mentioned Rick Santorum. Yeah. He began this huge campaign to say, let's make the word Santorum on the internet, and forgive me if they're disturbed by this, to describe the mixture of excrement and semen that is a result of anal sex. And he put this on the internet, got all of his followers to keep on Googling it, so that now, and I'm sure people can do it as I'm speaking, look up Santorum. Now, this is a man with children. When Santorum said, can't we just debate these issues? Why do you have to be so... He told him to go to hell. He then blackmailed him and said, if you donate huge amounts of money to my causes, I'll take it off the internet. This is a man who says, if we really try hard, it gets better. He's a crass, aggressive, vicious bully.
There aren't any worse bullies than this guy. This guy is like the definition of what it means to be a bully, for sure. And he bullies everyone, especially the Judeo-Christian people in the States and Canada, those who believe in traditional marriage, those who believe that having a mom and a dad is better. He's been bullying them for his whole public life.
Yeah. And once again, it needs to be stressed here that anyone who is bullied for any reason, and the reason that most people are bullied at school has nothing to do with sexuality, it's because of their body image, usually because they're overweight.
Yeah.
sexuality comes down about 10 or 11 on the list. But anyone who's bullied, the bullying has to stop. It's wrong to bully anyone, including to bully someone if they're gay. But these cops come forward with official sanction, it seems, to make out as though being gay is such a horrible thing at schools in Canada. And they may have had bad experiences, but generally, I don't believe them.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the video and I sympathize with them because it sucks to be bullied. I was bullied when I was in high school. High school's a very bad place.
Yeah.
But this isn't about bullying. This is the RCMP, which is a tax-funded organization in Canada, promoting this very insensitive campaign, promoting the gay agenda, as some may call it. And it's very disturbing to see what they're doing.
We have to wonder how these officers would deal with, say, an evangelical Christian or a serious Roman Catholic or Orthodox Jew who was opposed to same-sex marriage. Would they treat them in a balanced and fair way? I'm just not sure. Speaking of bullying, I just want to segue into this subject because CBS led with this item, and the headline, it was quite staggering. Teens with lesbian mothers do better in school and are happier in life. So I read the article, because I mean, that's a conclusive headline. The study, which is very few people, was conducted by a radical lesbian researcher who lives with, married to, an even more radical lesbian filmmaker, and the results were published in the Journal of Homosexuality. In other words, it's a crock. I mean, it's just a very biased, tendentious report, but it's given headline news. Mark Regnerus, who's a highly respected, neutral, objective academic, did an extensive research on this subject, and the findings were quite disturbing. They were that gay men didn't do as well at raising children as man, woman parents, but way down was lesbian parents. The results were appallingly bad. He didn't suggest this, he just said these are the results. There was a concerted campaign to get him fired.
Yeah.
Who's the bully in all this? The man says, this is my sociological research, he's got a very good PhD, he's a respected academic, these are what my figures said, you draw your own conclusions, not for me, and they said, we're going to make sure you're fired. The university have eventually defended him, but who's the bully?
Who's the bully? And I think when you look at this whole It Gets Better campaign, I should start a new campaign, and we should start a new campaign. It doesn't get better if you believe in Judeo-Christian values. It won't get better if you believe in marriage between one man and one woman. It doesn't get better if, for those parents who are concerned that this kind of propaganda is infiltrating into their children's schools, it will not get better for these people.
It's all about human decency. Just treat people with respect. Don't obsess about their sexuality or color or anything else. Treat people decently the way you'd like to be treated. And that must apply to all people, including even gay activists.
For sure.
Great to have you on the show. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
We leave you tonight with a group of RCMP officers who let down their guard to help teenagers. 20 Mounties from British Columbia opened up on camera with their personal stories of growing up gay and getting bullied. The officers are the first in Canada to join the It Gets Better project. CTV's Vancouver Bureau Chief Melanie Nagy with their candid story.
And it was a huge, huge struggle for me.
Yeah, they go after you pretty hard.
I was teased at times and ridiculed and called a faggot.
Vulnerable. And before he died, he said to me, he said, Kelly, I'm glad you are who you are. And emotional. Words not often associated with an RCMP officer.
I was the recipient of quite a lot of bullying at school.
But these Mounties are stepping away from the stereotypes.
Being attracted to guys.
And opening up about their sexuality as a way to lend their voice to the It Gets Better campaign.
There are now over 40,000 videos.
The BC officers are the latest group to create a video for the global project, which encourages people to post supportive messages online as a way to help struggling gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender youth.
It's usually not the greatest time of anyone's life.
Constable Cheryl Letcombe was not only in the video, but helped create it.
I noted that some other police agencies in the United States had posted some videos to it, and I thought, why isn't the RCMP doing this yet?
Over the last year, the RCMP has been mired in controversy, including allegations of sexual harassment. A string of lawsuits has also been launched against the force. But the officers say this video is not a public relations exercise. It's a message of hope aimed at young people.
911 operator.
Corporal Robert.
Nikki Thompson and her friends are high school students. They're also members of a club that works to fight homophobia.
I just like that it's showing that these people are accepted within the RCMP.
I thought it was a very good step because, you know, in Canada we don't really have a lot of these videos from anyone who isn't a celebrity.
Things definitely get better.
No celebrities, just traffic cops, investigators, and administrators sharing their personal stories, hoping their words will resonate.
Never give up. It does get better.
Melanie Nagy, CTV News, Vancouver.
Are we moral? Well, of course we're not moral, but depends how you define morality. Your morality, my morality. Oh, stop it, for goodness sake. Most people know what is right and what is wrong. Every Monday we have a segment called Moral Maze. We talk about various issues, and this is going to be quite fun. She hasn't been on the show before, by the way. Chantel Joes from Campaign Life. Is that where you're from? Are you nervous?
No, I mean, I'm excited to do this.
You should be nervous.
Yeah.
Excited to meet me, I understand.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, look, this story here about General Petraeus and having to quit. I mean, the issue is, objectively speaking, the man betrayed his wife, and that was wrong. It was immoral.
Absolutely.
But he's there to be in charge of American intelligence. Does it mean that he's less good at his job?
No, I don't think coming out, you can't say that it got in the way of his job any more than, you know, Kennedy was president or Clinton was president. I mean, I don't think the extramarital affairs got in the way of things, but I mean, if you look, is he trustworthy? He's holding all of America's secrets, and he had a huge one just kind of sitting there.
Yeah.
I mean, his wife had no idea. She came out today saying, like, she had no clue, she's devastated. Can you trust the guy? I mean... Well,
that's a good point. Now there's a third person who apparently was told by the mistress, don't you dare do this.
I know.
And actually, he has odd taste because the mistress is very muscular. And anyway, let's not get into that too much. But yes, I mean, this is it, isn't it? First of all, why wasn't this revealed earlier? Because he's a prime candidate for blackmail.
Absolutely.
If his wife is unaware... I mean, a friend of mine went into British intelligence years ago, and his friends, including me, we were all spoken to, and they said, is he gay? And we said, well, why? And they said, look, that's up to him, but we need to know, because otherwise he could be blackmailed. And this is the issue. He was keeping it secret.
Well, and that's why everyone's praising him. They said, oh, what a great guy. You know what? He was caught, but he came out. He cared so much about his country. He was a patriot. He resigned from the position. He didn't have to, and everyone's saying, you know, legally he didn't have to step down. But he loved his country so much, he stepped down. So now we think it's okay, let's praise the guy, let's say good for him.
No, he had to step down. And I suspect Benghazi will come into this because now people are going to say, well, did you not mention it because the president's people said we know what's going on? They must have known what was going on.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, you don't all of a sudden find suspicious emails going on. I mean, the FBI is a little bit more smarter than what we're credited.
Well, I would hope so. He'll probably now have a chat show somewhere, probably on this station, who knows, but I'm sure he'll be fine. Have you seen the new James Bond movie?
I haven't yet, but I mean, we all know James Bond. I don't think there's much to
I don't know him personally, but Daniel Craig insists there will never be a gay James Bond.
Absolutely.
As his chemistry with Javier Bardem sparks speculation. I haven't seen the movie yet. I hear it's quite good. But,
right. Have you seen the still shots, though? Javier's kind of sitting there. He's touching him all over the place.
Is he?
I mean, they're calling it very homoerotic. But, I mean, Daniel Craig comes right on out there. He says no. I mean, absolutely, why would there be? I mean, there's been talks about a female James Bond, and that's kind of what it's pushing out of. You know, if we have a female James Bond, why not a gay James Bond? But, I mean, you got to think, poor Ian Fleming, when he wrote the story,
he was in the Navy, for goodness sake. And he was upper class. I mean, I'm sure public. I think it will be very unlikely. What I object to, though, is that if we really have reached the stage of equality, it shouldn't matter being he is what he is. Gay population is 2 to 3%. It's very unlikely that this character would be gay in real life. And